welcome to AP Workshops. Welcome to another one of our little tech videos. Now in our e-commerce shop, the web shop you've seen, and one of our quite most popular parts that we sell in the shop is one of these wiring kits. The wiring kits that are made by a gentleman by the name of John Walker from Copper Kits. He's here to actually explain to us today roughly exactly what it's all about, why it's here, what it's been doing, and sort of a bit of an update on what it is, and some kind of a bit of an instructional on some progress that we've been making with it. So welcome, John. Thanks very much for joining us, mate. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
So a little bit of a backstory. John, tell me about your bikes. Tell me about what you've got, just to prove kind of thing that you are the real deal. So tell us about your biking history. Let's have a bit of backstory.
Bike history started probably when I was about 7, so I had a little, started with an Italian bike, so it did get a little bit better.
It kind of
that. So I had a Tecnomoto, little 10-inch wheel thing, not too dissimilar to the Grom you've got there, but an Italian version of it back in the probably early 80s, because I am ancient.
84 years.
From then I had a YZ80, so did a bit with the scrambling. First road bike was a CBR 400. So that kind of got me into sports bikes.
This is kind of an early 90s thing then, isn't it?
That's
the sports bike, the CBR 4.
So they were like the grey imports of the 90s that came about. Another one I had shortly after that was a TDR 250. So I had a bit of a play with the two strokes. So
two strokes, wicked bikes. Yeah, we've got a customer in the shop still at the moment who was like, yeah, we had TDRs and stuff like that. We had a good conversation about that earlier on.
Yeah. From that, went back to sports bikes. So I had a Ducati 900 Super Sport. And then after that, I had a bit of a gap. Children got in the way, usual thing. So kind of gave up bikes for a little bit. Went back, got a VFR 800, and then I had my Gen 1 Milli after that.
That's when I met you.
Yeah, so that's when we met.
That's when I met you, yeah.
So at Spookies, I think it was, yeah. So one of the Aprilia days there. Yeah, so from then that's where I really got involved with the kits, because I had an issue with mine starting, looked at the problems with it, and started to make my own kits. So kind of my background is, just so you know, I'm an industrial electrician. So I used to do a lot with DC motors and DC electrical systems. So that's kind of where I started. So yeah, Aprilia, and it's gone from there really. We developed them for pretty much the whole range of the Aprilia bikes that they've ever done.
So that's why you started. So why did you start it in the first place? Start from the start. Why did you start Copper Kits? Tell us what the situation is with why are we selling these?
Okay, so my Gen 1, the reason I started doing it, my Gen 1 was terrible for starting. The first thing I noticed was this cable was undersized. So the batteries, when they were designed, were probably about 180 amps, what you could get then. The cables themselves are only big enough to carry about 160 amps, even when they were new. Yeah. So putting a bigger battery on doesn't actually do anything as regards the cranking power that you get. So I upgraded these to 16mm cable, which will carry over 220 amps. So you've got a healthy condition then for the whole circuit to start.
You actually sound like you know what you're talking about here. I'm pretty impressed already,
fast
man.
Cranking speed, so instantly, and there's loads of videos out there. You only have to look on either on the Copper Kits Facebook page or on the Aprilia Performance Workshops as well page. There's loads of people that have fitted them, and you can see instantly the difference. The bike just starts straight away. So I'm not saying it's compulsory to ever fit something like this, but if you are having problems, there's the three things, as we know. There's the battery, there's the solenoid, so make sure you've got the latest one, so 150 amp.
So let me just stop you. So the solenoid was fitted, the 150 amp solenoid was fitted from the factory from 2006 onwards. So if you're ever looking for the information or some kind of information about when or where, which one you've got, if you're not sure, send us a photograph via email. We'll be able to identify it for you. But the bikes that were manufactured from 2006 onwards already came with the, or should have already come with the 150 amp solenoid that you were talking about just then.
Yeah, so battery, 150 amp solenoid, and the cables will tie all that together. So your expensive battery that you buy, you want those amps down at the starter motor, not heating the cables up. That's what these kits will allow that to do. So you get full torque down at the engine, and those big pistons take some turning over, as you know. 97mm
high compression pistons. Yeah. It's going to take a little bit of doing.
Not the easiest thing in the world.
Try bump starting one, and then tell me why you want it. Try it. I can't do it. I still can't do it.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's developed from there really. We do the copper buzz bars ourselves, so for the battery connections. If you look at yours, if you've not had an upgraded kit, the copper that's used is very thin. it's prone to mechanical damage. You can literally just move the cable and it'll bend the bar, which is connected to the battery post. It should be the most physical part of the circuit. So we use totally overrated. People do laugh at them and go, why have you done them so big? Well, it's mechanical protection as well as electrical integrity. That's why we use them.
You've got all of these parts here in front of you. Tell us kind of what research you've done into this and what parts you've got new, and tell us sort of why you're putting these updated parts in. So you mentioned that this was a buzz bar.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So this buzz bar then obviously is clearly a lot stronger than the standard piece that we've got on the wiring looms. I mean, even I can see that.
Yeah. Well, I've got one here actually. So
yeah, you can see kind of the size of it. Look, it's absolutely tiny,
we'll
isn't
show
it?
A bit closer in a minute, but it's literally probably about 1.5 mil. These are 3 mil by 15, so that'll probably carry about 400 amps. But it's the mechanical integrity I'm after with these, not just the current capacity. So we make those. We've actually invested in a lot of machining recently, so we can punch, we cut and we form them all in one go, so you end up with the actual part that we solder then physically to the crimp, and that's connected inside here. So that'll be a good example. So that's basically what we've got connected there. So there are other crimps that we've tried over the years, the earlier ones, which are a little bit like tin foil. So they are rated at 200 amps, but again, mechanically, I'm not interested in that. I want these to last forever. So you fit them, and you can forget about it then. So we've found a company. They're not too far from here, actually.
So this is all of these are all of the earth cabling and that. So this is all of the stronger, updated stuff, right? Okay.
Yeah. And we also use now a 16-ton hydraulic press rather than just a mechanical press. A lot of people use, which is normally a single point press. These are actually, if you look in the end there, that's just one that's cut off. So the main thing about the crimp is you don't want any air gap in there. As soon as you get air gap in there, you get corrosion and you get a bad connection. It creates resistance and you're back where you were with your original cable kit. So that's just, we'll show you that in a minute, but there's a cut off cross section there that you can see. So this is just an example of what we've found over the years when we've been making the parts. So anybody can buy these cheap little crimps from Halfords or any sort of automotive place. They're cheap and cheerful, they kind of do the job. We have seen problems with them tearing though, especially this type, tearing across the back here where the little slot is. So that's not great. So we have found a really good company that's local to here that make these more industrial type. So if you look at the comparison between the thickness of them, if you can see that, so actual physical thickness of the crimp itself is great because mechanically they're a lot stronger than the standard ones. So and they're a UK-based company, brilliant, which is what we want. So to connect the crimp to the cable though is another story. So I've just done a little cutout of this one. So crimped one using our 16-ton hydraulic crimp, and you can crimping tool. You can see that that's how it should be, nice and flat, no air gaps in there. Air gaps create corrosion and cause heat damage, so that's the last thing we want. So again, that's something that we use all the time now, and we don't have any failures with those. So talking about tooling, so these copper parts, so these come as a copper buzz bar. We buy meters of them at a time, and previously I used to cut these by hand, drill them by hand, tap them by hand. So there's a little bit of a variability there. So now we have a guillotine, so we cut them to length, we punch them 6 mil and 3 mil, and then that's drilled and tapped by hand, and you end up with this part. So we bend that.
So this part here is for like auxiliary part component,
that's right,
sort of like an optimator or something?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you've got unfortunately, you have to have an Aprilia alarm. The last thing you want to do is disconnect your battery because the damn thing goes off. So we use these, exactly for that. So they're an auxiliary part. So it's just a little bit of space that we had. People have said it'd be good if we could have a little connection somewhere. So that's what we've done. So these are soldered on. So they're fluxed and cleaned and then soldered, and then they're checked at the end. So we have a 1,000-volt check that we do with them, and then they're crimped on just as the same as the rest of them. Then, so you end up with a part like this. So going on to that. So okay. So that's what we've done there.
That's pretty cool.
So once we've built them, so before we put any of the braiding on to protect it, everything is dipped in ACF 50. The reason I do that personally is to get I don't know if you're familiar with ACF 50, it's actually designed for aircraft.
Aluminium bodied aircraft from the United States Army, wasn't it? That's it,
right.
I read up on it. I had to check, because it's like, what is this stuff?
So it's a self-searching lubricant, so as soon as it sees the cable, capillary action will pull that down into the cable. What that does is it prevents any water getting in there. And water, again, is corrosion, it's resistance, and you end up with your basically heating the cable up rather than getting the power to the starter motor. So that's the whole reason for that. After that, once they've been dipped, they're all shrink wrapped, cable braided, just for protection more than anything. I don't have to do that.
Stop them from rubbing.
Yeah,
and hold it all together.
Exactly.
Make sure it's waterproof. Make sure it's tight. Yeah, looks clean as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's always kind of looks better to the eye when it's all been done. I really appreciate it. We've fitted dozens of these kits, probably hundreds of these kits now, haven't I? Because as it goes, we see them daily. But it's nice to see that it's actually kind of put together properly.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's great stuff.
And moving on, it's taken years, as I said. We've gone through different companies. Even these rubber boots, believe it or not, you can't buy them in the UK, which is just weird. Unfortunately, it's the only part that we actually get from China. But we have to because we can't get them. So we've had those again, and probably the latest update is getting these connections that go into, you'll all recognise this, into the 30 amp fuse block. So the 30 amp fuse block provides the power to the solenoid.
So this here used to be a solder, didn't it?
Yeah, it used to be about so long with a bare connection, and you'd have to either crimp it or solder it to the old loom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To get it connected. So thankfully we've found the company that make the crimps that Aprilia uses, and again, it's a UK company, which is great because I always want to promote the UK businesses. So what we do now is, rather than having to solder,
demonstration time.
Here we go.
Demonstration time. It's like Blue Peter all over again.
So you've got your 30 amp fuses here. So you literally just take the one out and the other one, and then you just have a flat blade screwdriver, pop it in the back. Now the reason you have to do that, and the reason why these crimps are different, is there's a tiny little square cutout, and that's actually a safety clip. So you don't want current flapping around in the back of your bike while you're riding along. So that stops the cable coming out of this. So literally, screwdriver in, pull the cable out, and you can do away with that then, because that's the old loom, and then the new one just gets pushed back in. You can hear it click, and that's locked in then.
So we'll do a little close-up demonstration on that now.
So one of the developments that we've done recently, if you look at the new cable kits, is this connection. So until recently, we just used to send these out with the cables cut at this length, and the customer would then have to cut the loom, solder them to this connection, which is the 30 amp fuses under your seat. You'll recognise that as soon as you lift your seat up. So what that does is it provides power to the solenoid itself. So what we've finally managed to do is find the manufacturer, and we've ordered these crimps from them now, which is great. It's taken years of looking to find them. Even though we knew which customer it was, we couldn't get hold of them. So all we need to do now is, rather than get the soldering iron out, and I'm rubbish at soldering, here you go. So you just take the fuses out, just a flat blade screwdriver down the back, and there's a little safety catch. So if you grab hold of it, that just comes out then. And basically you'll see in there is this little square, and the little square is a safety catch. So it prevents the crimp coming out of the fuse holder, because if it did, that's basically your 12 volts that can touch anything electrical and cause a fire. We don't want that to happen. So the new one then basically just clips in with a little click, and then your fuse is back in, and off you go. So it's as simple as that now. There's no soldering, there's no shrink wrap, there's nothing. It's just really simple.
Job done.
And reliable. Yeah, I mean, on the V4s, this block actually feeds the ABS unit. So it's a safety mechanism that we need to just make sure is as reliable as possible. And it is, we're using the same parts now. So it's the same as the OE. So.
Sweet.
Okay.
Done. Okay. That's all good. So that's quite easy to change. It saves a lot of the faff when it comes to sort of soldering and stuff like that. Because I know sometimes that soldering skills can be a little bit ropey. I've seen a couple of them, and I've repaired a few of the soldering bits. But you know, I mean, if you can do it that way, it just makes life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Doddle, yeah.
Have you had any feedback from customers about the new kits and stuff like that? Have you had any interest back from them? I certainly have, definitely.
Always positive. I do get the odd. Always positive, basically. I'd say 99% of the comments that we get back are positive. The bike starts straight away. Reliability's been great now since they've done them. We have had just some comments, and it's just general feedback, is to people saying that the cables are a bit long. Well, they're actually taken from the loom from the original bike, so the cable length is correct. What can happen is if you try and bend the cables too tight, so you're trying to shorten the length of the run. They are designed that length for a reason. They need a nice sweeping bend radius, so they're not pulled tight. And the last thing we want is any cable damage and connection damage because the cables are being pulled. We've seen a few issues with people having the shorter batteries, not packing them properly, so the battery posts end up lower than they should be, and the battery can actually end up loose. So the battery can be bouncing up and down, and obviously it can damage the cable. So if it's flexing it all the time, eventually it could cause a problem. So, but feedback has been brilliant. And if
I've got to be honest, mate.
If people say, "Oh, I don't like the way you've done that," I'll look at doing a different way.
So you're open to some sort of feedback on it?
100%. Yeah.
I've got to be honest, 100%. Mate. I've never had anybody come back to us and complain about them. They've always been. It's been people wanted to know where the original soldered connections went. They weren't quite sure about that, so we've helped them with that in the past. But with this, it doesn't seem to be any problems with it. We've always had some sort of pretty positive feedback on it. So basically, I'm pretty chuffed with them. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. So what does what does the future hold? Have you got any ideas about where you want to take it in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constantly changing thing. I spoke to you a minute ago about some of the other parts that we use, the auxiliary parts and things. We're always looking at improving those if we can in any way. If any new design of crimps come out or any new ways of connecting the parts comes out, then I'll certainly look at them. I'd look at them on a regular basis anyway. So just keeping it as reliable as we can for the users, really, because we just want the bikes to start.
That's basically. We just want to ride the bikes, don't we? Just want to ride the bikes, man.
All we're after.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So different manufacturers. Do you do them for different manufacturers?
The majority of them are through yourselves for Aprilias. I don't look anywhere else to do them for anyone, but people kind of know us and they know you, and I've certainly had conversations with yourself where we've helped people out, and we've done quite a few race bikes because the looms are generally chopped up anyway and things have changed. So.
It's a race bike. Yeah, they've been through the grinder a bit, haven't they?
So we've done that. I've done the odd Ducati, but not a great deal. There's a friend of mine, he kind of does that side of it himself anyway. So Triumphs are the ones that have started to sort of raise their heads, and also Moto Guzzi as well. So similar sort of Italian electrics on that side, where you look at them and think, what were they thinking? So just trying to keep everything consistent,
Mate, I think you're doing a grand old job. You're really certainly sort of helping us out, and I've seen the difference in the workshops. You know what I mean? When we fitted them, we sell them and we fit them to people's bikes on the benches, and they actually work. It's nice to be able to sort of see what goes on before and after. It works. Thanks very much for joining us, mate. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much. So I'll have a COVID-19 friendly handshake. I really, really appreciate it. As an owner myself, we've got these on my own bike. I really, like I said, I thanks very much for looking after us. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So if you've got any questions and you want to get in touch, no problems. You can call the shop, no problems. Snox will be able to answer the phone for you. You can get in touch with us via email. That's sales@apworkshops.co.uk, or you can just kind of get in touch with us anyway. There's social media, there's Instagram, no problems. We've obviously you'll be watching this on a YouTube channel. If you do like what you see, don't forget to press the little like button and subscribe and give us a bit of a mention, no problems. Tell your mates, it all helps. So thanks very much. If there's anything else we can do for you, take care. We'll talk to you soon.